I learned very quickly that I did not want to be under a desk. I wanted to be around people, and I wanted to be a leader of technology.
You've had a career that spanned Microsoft, academia, and now you're in leadership at a Microsoft partner. What are kind of some of these pivotal moments of your journey that have made you who you are?
Coming up and being where I am today, and when I reflect on where I was as a young female trying to figure out how was I going to make it in this big giant world? People saw in me the leadership capabilities that were there. I continued to take progressive steps. I eventually landed at Microsoft. That was a pivotal point in my career where I started to get comfortable being in my own skin.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you feel like young people or maybe just like new talent faces today?
When I was young in career, you want an opportunity, thinking about that growth, and you want to keep grabbing and you want to keep reaching. I realized that I couldn't just be somebody that was always reaching out and asking somebody for something, AKA a job. What I would say is first and foremost is,
hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel. And today I'm joined by a special guest, Danielle Estrada. Danielle, thank you so much for being here. You are an executive vice president of sales, and getting any sort of executive level person on the show is always really exciting because at least I talk all the time about being a young professional. I enjoy picking people's brains that from an outside perspective, that's kind of where a lot of people may aspire to be, is executive level leadership. And so I kind of just want to start the conversation and just, you've had a career that spanned Microsoft, academia, and like I said, now you're in leadership at a Microsoft partner. What are kind of some of these pivotal moments of your journey that have kind of made you who you are, I guess?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much. I'm honored that you asked me and invited me to the show. When you talk about being young in career, you already tugged at my heart. It's one of the passion areas for me. And so, taking the time to spend some time with you and your community and your following, I'm honored, and I'm jazzed, and I'm excited for this conversation and jazzed to do it. So thank you for inviting me into your community, because you didn't have to do it, and you get to pick and choose who you put on your platform. So you choosing me is an honor. So thank you for that. And you made me just immediately think about my path. And if I could just share a little bit of my story and my journey and what drives some of that passion, even what you just mentioned. Being you call yourself young, so let's go with that, right? And me coming up and being where I am today, and when I reflect on where I was as a young female trying to figure out how was I going to make it in this big giant world. I met my husband, my high school sweetheart, when I was 16 years old. We got married the summer that I graduated from high school. I knew that I was going to spend the rest of my life with him, and he knew the same. It was a spiritual connection, and God knew that we were destined to be together. So getting a proposal at the age of 17 and 32 years later, us still going strong. That's not norm. That's not the norm at this day and age. But I am 100% in my faith that he connected me with the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And so being young and trying to figure out how to survive, right? Where are we going to live? How are we going to eat? How are we going to get from place to place? I've always been a super driven individual. And so I faced myself I ended up in a situation of trying to figure out how I was going to develop a career and wanting all things success. I wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to have a family, all of those things. And trying to figure that out at such a young age was a feat. And I was blessed to be surrounded by a few individuals that took me under wing and saw the potential that was in me and really encouraged me to finish my education, created and opened up doors for me to come in as someone that's newer in career or lacking experience and spend time coaching, training me, helping me understand, giving me the tools that I need, which was number one, go to school, get your degree, and finish college, because you need that. So for anyone listening and anybody being convinced that you don't need to go to college, I highly recommend it. There's so many benefits to getting your education, some type of education, the education that is good for you. That may not be a college degree, but some type of education to help frame what that future is going to look like for you is what I highly recommend, and what was encouraged to me. And it was a pivotal point for me as I entered the tech industry. I started off in telecommunications. I learned about project management from a telecom standpoint. I got my undergraduate degree in telecommunications management. I learned very quickly that I did not want to be under a desk, figuring out how to configure motherboards and working on computers. But I knew that I wanted to be around people, and I wanted to be a leader of technology. I knew that from the very, very beginning when I entered, and I got the opportunity to enter into the technology world. As I continued to grow and take pivotal steps, it was about me really demonstrating my aptitude, my capability, delivering good work. When I was given a task, I delivered on that task. I met my commitments. I communicated early and often and kept my leaders up to speed on where I was at. And so people saw in me the leadership capabilities that were there. And I continued to take progressive steps in my career. And I eventually ended up, I don't want to make the story too long, but I eventually landed at Microsoft. After taking several progressive steps, worked for big giant consulting firm. I was at Accenture for a period of time. I was at Fannie Mae for a period of time. Just continued to drive successful growth in my career. And I found myself in a place of trying to decide what was next. And a friend of mine that worked with me at Accenture, she was like, Danielle, Microsoft needs you. You need to come over here. And I ended up interviewing with a couple of leaders at Microsoft, and I drank the Microsoft Kool-Aid, and I was so excited to be a part of the Microsoft brand. They were just in the moment of making a massive transition in their culture and their leadership, and you could truly see that transition, and it just tugged at me. It just drew me in when I saw the opportunities that were being created for women, for minorities, for everyone. It was all about everybody, no matter what, and creating those opportunities. That was pivotal for me. That was a pivotal point in my career where I started to get comfortable being in my own skin, being comfortable with taking a seat at the table, continuing to grow, and people seeing what I brought to the table. And it was like, it's not a matter of, not to say that I didn't deserve it, but sometimes we get sucked into feeling like it's a privilege and an honor for you to be in a certain position. And it's like, no, it's not just about a privilege. It's you have something that you're bringing to the table, and other people need to see that. They need to experience it, and it helps drive to success. So reaching that realization that you are valued and that you have something that others need, it builds a level of confidence. To the point where you start taking chances and you putting your name in the hat for other opportunities that you normally wouldn't do before. So as I continue to move throughout my career, delivering good results, using my network, staying very connected to networks, growing my network, right? Also doing things like this, sharing my story, my journey, how I got there, what are the bumps that I took, what were the positive things that happened, how did I learn, how did I get to this point, right? Giving back to those that gave back to me. Those are all the things that I feel just set me up for success in where I am today. Yeah. So that was a lot.
Oh my goodness. No, that was amazing. That was amazing. You're clearly passionate about, like you're saying, almost giving back, but like encouraging the next person to push themselves to grow. And I agree with that sentiment in that I feel very blessed to do what I do and to feel like I can make a career in what I'm doing as in my 20s. And I can't help but feel like the reason I'm in a position that I'm in now is because of people that have poured into me. You know, whether it was my parents or coaches or friends or, you know, mentors or pastors or whatever. Like, that I've had these people take the time to pour into me, you know, and sure, it took hard work. You know, I don't think you'd say it was easy, or that anything was handed to you, but that like it also inevitably took somebody else as well, to teach you the skills or to educate you or to allow you to see a vision. I kind of wanted to ask you in that same vein, what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel like either young people or maybe just like new talent, like what are some of the biggest challenges that new talent to the Microsoft stack faces today?
You know, it's a couple of things come to mind. I was actually talking to my son who is about to graduate from college here in December. So super proud of him. Shout out to Nate Estrada, getting ready to graduate from Virginia Tech. And he and I have been dialoguing about, you know, that what's next. How do you land that next opportunity? And even as I navigated through Microsoft and many other companies that I worked for, and even myself when I was young in career, you want an opportunity, right? You're thinking about that growth and you want to keep grabbing and you want to keep reaching, even just getting your foot in the door. And one of the first things that comes to mind to me is that I realized that I couldn't just be somebody that was always reaching out and asking somebody for something, AKA a job. That if I'm reaching out to you, Griffin, for a conversation, that I'm coming to you and I don't want to say begging, but, you know, always kind of having my hand out. What I learned to do was, hey, let me get together with Griffin and get to know Griffin. Who is he? What is he about? How did he get where he is today in his career? What can I learn from Griffin? You know, can we get together and meet on some type of a regular basis if you're willing to make the time so that I can continue to grow my network? So one of the things that I really invested into myself was I created a one slide PowerPoint and I created these columns and I listed out who are people that know me, that would be able to endorse me and know about me and my background and my skills. And then I said, who are people that I sort of know, but I want to get to know better? And then I said, who are people that, oh my gosh, I really would love to have a conversation with them, but I just don't know them yet, and I may need some type of an introduction. And I kept that slide, and what I did was I used that as a way to set up some type of one-on-one that I would have with all of those folks. And I challenged myself to take that column of people that didn't know me, as I said, at least one person from that list a quarter. I was going to have the courage to reach out to one of those people and set up time to get to know them. I wasn't asking them for anything. I wasn't asking them for a job or any of that. I was purely going to focus in on building my network. I was going to force myself to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was going to go to some type of a conference or an event, some place that I hadn't been before where there are tons of people that I didn't know. And I was going to force myself to go walk up to somebody, some stranger that I didn't know before. I was going to shake their hand. I was going to introduce myself and say, hi, my name is Danielle Estrada. I work at Microsoft and this is what I do. And I would love to get an opportunity to just meet you and hear a little bit more about you. If you can imagine how that would make you feel and how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with doing something like that. That's one of the things that I did in my time at Microsoft and other companies so that I could purely start building my network, getting connected to other people and not being forced in a spot where I'm in a bind, I got to look for a new job or I want a new job. Every position that I've had, every position that I have had has been through networking. Has been through somebody that either tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, Danielle, I think you should take a look at this particular position. Or, hey, Danielle, we need help here. And I think you've got the skills that we need that would be super beneficial in this particular role. Why? Because I took time to build my network. And building my network was outside of me going to them and asking for a job. that was super important and critical for me as I've continued to take steps and navigate through a big giant company like Microsoft or even Hitachi or Accenture, these other big companies. You've got to lean on the network. And sometimes that network also, as I navigated through, was helping me learn. It was very intimidating to go work at what we all call the mothership, right? And so that intimidation was, I need to learn this big giant ecosystem. And I wanted to have people that I could reach out to, that I could just ask questions. There's all these acronyms and this new technology that I just wasn't familiar with. And so having that network of people that would help me learn or give me resources or point me to resources as I was trying to navigate through, those are some of the things that helped me, be successful, but really relying on my network to get there.
Sure. No, I think that's really encouraging. And actually, a recent conversation that I was just having with a previous guest was, like the value of a network. And I kind of think about that in like kind of the scariest part about doing this show or building my brand online is like, I have to send basically cold LinkedIn DMs to people I've never met, and they've got, bigger brands than myself, and like just, hey, I'm Griffin. Can I get an hour of your time, please, Mr. or Mrs. Expert? And so I definitely relate to that in that it can be super intimidating. And even after I've sent 50, no, more than that, like however many I've done, it still is like, I don't know, part of me is still like, no, I won't send that. I won't send it. And, delete my message out, whatever. And then I send it to somebody else or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just funny. Like, that's so real. I wonder, like, I've had the chance, I've met you in person as well, and I think maybe my friends would say the same about me, so this is not this is a compliment. Like, you definitely are a type of person who, like, exudes a lot of confidence, not necessarily that you, like, command the room, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, maybe the life of the party or, a big ball of energy, whatever that is. Yeah. And like I said, my friends would probably classify me the same way. But what's kind of, I'm thinking I'm a listener, and I am not that person. And you're sitting here telling me, hey, if you want to grow your career, go network. It's like, okay, well, shoot, that's not me. I can't do that. What would be your advice to that person on how they can build confidence in a space that is so competitive and online and network focused like tech?
Yeah. What I would say is first and foremost is you're exactly right. I am a big ball of energy. I like making people happy, making people smile. When I see someone that maybe doesn't exude as much confidence or energy as I do, they actually draw me because I start to look at, hey, are they okay? Are they comfortable? Are they uncomfortable? Maybe they're not comfortable, getting out in front of a room or going and doing what I said to you before, which is going up to a stranger, like you're having to, send DMs to folks and worry about, the rejection, or, you're in a conference room full of people and you can't get in a word and you have something that you want to share, right? And I'm part of the reason why I've done some of the things that I've done. And forced myself to build my network and have some of those uncomfortable conversations is when I am faced with that situation, when I'm sitting in a boardroom or I'm sitting in a room full of other people that don't look like me, or I'm lacking that confidence that I can still, Danielle, pull it out. So even that person that's like, oh my gosh, I can't network, I can't do this, I can't, you can do it, but you do it in your own way, in your own style, right? You don't have to match my energy. All I'm saying is match the method, right? Which is, as uncomfortable as it is you identify that way of comfort for you to go have a conversation with someone that you don't know, because you are going to be faced with situations where you're going to have to do that, or you're going to be a representative of a company or a brand. And so, getting out of that discomfort, you don't have to necessarily do it my way, but it's finding the approach that makes you the most comfortable to represent you and your own personal brand.
Hey, if you are finding this video impactful or insightful, be sure to like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you are wanting to learn more about the Microsoft Power Platform, then you are going to want to check out the completely free self-paced course that has all of the hand-picked content directly from me as the first link down in the description down below. This is going to teach you everything you need to know about the Power Platform to get started and pass your first few Microsoft certifications. I can honestly say that as a Power Platform consultant myself, that I love what I do, and I don't think many people in today's day and age can say that. If you are wanting to learn more, as I mentioned, be sure to check out the first link in the description down below to get in direct contact and connect with me. All right, let's get back to the conversation. I think something that a lot of people talk about as well. So a little tangent here. There's like this little flea flying around me, and I don't know why. What's going on? Like little tiny speck of a flea. Sorry. This tangent. So I was talking to somebody about like when I like my friends outside of work ask me what I do, I'm kind of stumped as to what to say, because if I'm like, oh, I'm a Power Platform consultant, they would have no clue what in the world I'm talking about. So I say like, oh, I'm a software consultant, and that makes me sound way smarter than I am. You know what I mean? Like they hear that and they think I'm like some pro coder, like who's creating Chat GPT or something. I'm like, no, that's not me at all. So then I try to explain like, okay, no, I work with Microsoft Dynamics. It's the CRM platform for businesses. And they're like, you work for Microsoft? Oh my goodness. I'm like, no, I do not. Work with them with the product they sell. But it's funny. I like this idea that everybody in this industry, like we're working on something that, I don't know, might be technical, or a lot of people feel like is like a really impressive thing, if that makes sense what I mean. And I think that it causes a lot of people to have like imposter syndrome. Like this is a super common topic that I feel like people, at least in the industry, or at least in, things that I listen to, that people talk about them struggling with, like feeling like, hey, this is really cool, and I think it comes back to that confidence piece. Like this is really cool what we're doing, but I'm just not that guy yet. I don't know. Would you have any advice for those people that have that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, like a word of encouragement, I guess, to them on what you would say?
Sure. At first, I'm going to work on you. Like when people ask you, what you do, oh my gosh, you work for Microsoft. I absolutely work with Microsoft, right?
I work with them. I will say that. I do say that. But yeah, continue.
Yes. Take your props. You earned it, right? Is what I would say to them, and what I say to you is, don't be afraid to shoot your shot, right? And take that credit. You work in technology. You've been educated, you've been trained. All of the work and the hard work that you put into it, you got to take your credit, and you got to be ready to take your credit, and don't hesitate, right? So that's my first thing is don't be afraid to shout yourself out. It's not that you're being, conceited or boastful or anything like that, but there is nothing wrong with putting your brand out there, right? And showing confidence in what you've accomplished, because it is a lot. Not everybody has done that and has had the courage that you have. And at your age and what you've achieved and the amazing things that you're doing to enable us. And, I'm in sales, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without you. Right. So there's something that you're bringing to the table. And what I encourage you and others to do is to just not hesitate. And, sometimes you got to practice it a little bit. And if I sit down and I think about, because people ask me all the time, oh my gosh, Danielle, what do you do? They follow me. I have so many people that follow me on social media, and I travel all the time. I travel every single week, and I always do a post on my personal page, and it says, where in the world is Danielle today? And so a lot of my friends on social media, they're like, oh my God, Danielle, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work in tech sales. And they're like, you do? And I'm like, yeah. I said, I work with Microsoft. And they're like, oh my God. I mean, just the shock factor. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what I do. I travel around the world. I speak to customers. I speak to our employees, and I get to talk to them about technology. Yes. And there's, for me, and again, I've got a little bit of practice. I've had an opportunity to practice, over the years. But I say that without hesitation. A lot of times, well, I do this. No, I work with Microsoft. I work in tech sales. I'm a sales leader. Yes. I have about 100 people that work for me. Openly, confidently, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Don't stutter around it. Why? Because you earned it, right? No matter where you are in your career, you be confident and you be crystal clear about the value that you're bringing to the table, because we need every single one of you. There's people that are at different phases of their career and of their in their journey, and you should be confident in it no matter what stage you're in, whether you're at the very beginning, the middle, if you've been in it for a while, right? Then you have something that you're bringing to the table and value that we need to hear about.
Yeah. Man, awesome. That is like, all right, we could wrap it up there. I don't know if I have much to add on that. I do kind of want to switch up the subject though a little bit. So you are involved in academia and in some capacity, and if my notes serve me correctly, you're an adjunct professor that talks about AI at Georgetown. Like, is this correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, what's this dark side of Danielle here that she does on top of her day job?
Right. People ask me like, Danielle, do you not have enough to do? But listen, the story behind my academia journey is, I mentioned before that, I got married when I was super young, and I had to figure out how I was going to, complete my education. And I completed my master's degree online. At that time, I had my son. My son had been born at that time. And so I was trying to continue to grow in my career, and I wanted to go beyond my bachelor's degree. I wanted to get a master's degree. But how does a busy wife and mom and daughter and friend and sister, continue her education? And so I found the answer through getting my education, my master's degree online. And when I knew the moment that I met my husband, I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. When I started my program and my journey of getting my master's degree, I said, I'm going to give back someday. I am going to teach someday higher education. I made that call to myself in 2002. And through Microsoft, through my network, I found an opportunity to enter the Georgetown family and enter as someone in industry from a tech standpoint. I had the opportunity to join the Georgetown faculty team, and there I helped to endorse their artificial intelligence management master's degree with endorsement from Microsoft. I helped build out one of our first introductory to artificial intelligence classes in our undergrad program, and then they asked me to teach it. And so again, it kind of goes back to some of my passion is there are tools and there are people that helped me get to where it is that I am today. And so my desire and my passion to give back to others that are trying to achieve what I achieved, that was on my bucket list, and I'm making sure that I check that off. And I've had a great time. It's been challenging. Sometimes it's time consuming, but getting the opportunity to talk about AI and education. And if you can imagine in the education space, the resistance to AI, and being a part of not only educating others, but helping students to understand how to responsibly leverage and use AI, and them to see some of what you can do and what you shouldn't do, and how to be successful in your education. Why? Because AI is our future. There are, almost every job that's out there is going to have some type of AI infused in it into the tech space. We need people that understand AI, responsible use of AI, the proper way to use it, because that is our future. It's not going anywhere. It's actually expanding and growing. So the opportunity to educate others and them come out with an education in AI is it's what we need. So being a part of that is super exciting.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not asking you to teach an entire semester's worth of content in 3 minutes, but like when you say AI management, what's like the big pillars, maybe the chapters of the textbook that go into AI management? Like,
sure.
I guess
So
briefly.
in our master's, program, that because it's a higher, you're talking about a higher education, we're really looking at, understanding the core foundation of what AI is, right? Understand its history, and AI has been around for a long time, right? It's just now in the forefront of it's the next hot thing. So we're making sure that you understand the history, but it's foundational. Not that we're asking people to go in and build, large language models or anything like that, but we're making sure that you understand what AI truly is and what those components are, that you can develop a strategy. If you're in the technology space and you have a company that is trying to leverage AI, how do you build an AI strategy, right? We also talk about AI and ethics. How do you use AI responsibly? That's a huge, huge component of this program, is the responsible use, and really knowing, those things that, how to kind of weed out those things that you don't want to do with an AI, or may not be true to the responsible use of it. So there's a number of courses that give you the foundations, and they all build on each other. But it's really think about it as more strategy, as a leader in the technology space that's trying to implement an AI program or a journey for that company, and helping you with all the components that you would need to be able to do that, to help an organization do that. Then I'll say that from more of the introductory side, on the undergrad side, I teach in the Bachelor for Liberal Arts program, where technology isn't necessarily at the forefront. And so it's also being able to kind of bring out the art of the possible, and really, really, really starting at its basics, where some may be, fearful of, oh my gosh, I shouldn't use this. I'm going to get in trouble if I use AI, and really helping them understand this thing that you may have a fear of, or you may be afraid of. This really is what AI is, and how you could use it and leverage it the right way. And so it's really, going through some of the, very basics of AI from an introductory standpoint.
Sure. Okay, you've introduced my next question in that, and I think the sales perspective on this will be particularly valuable. Like, what are these conversations looking like that you're having with organizations that are, wanting to take that next step about, hey, we need help developing a strategy, or this is our strategy, help us actually get this done? How can organizations prepare themselves or their workforces for the impact AI is having on the industry?
Yep, a great question, and something that is almost in every conversation that I have with customers. You almost answered the question. It's, we want to leverage AI, but we don't know where to start. And so in many cases, we're leveraging more of an advisory service, where we can come in and help customers really figure out how to get started. In some cases where we've seen people not be as successful, with AI, is they're kind of all over the place. They're just like, oh, we need to do this and we need to do this, instead of taking the time to really understand, where's your company at? What is it that you truly think you want to leverage, or you want to get out of, your digital transformation journey, and infusing AI into that, and help you really come up with a plan and a strategy and a roadmap for doing that. And there may be some little things that you can do initially to get people excited and really understanding how they could be leveraging AI, like using things like what's called Copilot, which is infused into the Microsoft stack. And so there's some quick wins that you can get there from a productivity standpoint. The things that you do every single day with just writing an email or building a presentation or writing a document. There's some easy, quick wins there, but there's also some, much more robust I'm going to say game-changing things that can be done, leveraging Gen AI. And so those are things that take more of a roadmap and a strategy and more time to think through, and also coming up with some prioritization. Another thing that I'll have to say, some of my colleagues would kill me if I didn't say it, but it's all about the data, and it's about security. So foundationally, making sure that you have a data strategy, that you have a security strategy, and that those are all being infused at the very beginning. So those are things that I talk to customers about, just from the very beginning of an AI conversation, and just making sure that they're healthy in that regard, that they're thinking about it the right way, or we're bringing in then others that can have a conversation with really thinking through an AI strategy before you just jump right in. And then people are like, oh my gosh, this didn't work, or I didn't like the results that I got. Just making sure that they can have a much more successful outcome to leveraging the next hot thing, which is AI right now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure you have. Have you heard the Satya Nadella quote about how agents are going to replace applications? I think he said it on a podcast or something. It's been clipped
Yeah.
everywhere. What's kind of your thoughts, I guess, on that? Again, just kind of want to give you the floor. I mean, as somebody who like eats, sleeps, and breathes Microsoft Dynamics and Microsoft Dynamics sales, that while seems cool, I'm like, that's got to be like 10 years down the road. And maybe it is, but like, what are kind of your thoughts on that? I'm sure organizations are asking the similar sort of questions.
Yeah, I think first it's kind of like what I was saying earlier is that, our AI and the evolution isn't going to change. It's going to become more and more at the face of what we do. It's been there. It's not new. It's just how we're using it, and we're using it, more and in a different way. And when I think about that statement and that quote, and even as I talk to some organizations, I was doing a tour yesterday of a retail store that they have a flagship store, and it's more of a kind of like where they do all their POCs, and they do a lot of testing of new technology, and they're leveraging AI. And in that regard, one of the statements was made that about people feeling like their position is going to be eliminated because of AI. I don't think that it's about eliminating positions or being replaced. People are thinking, oh, I'm going to be replaced by a robot. That's not the thinking that I have or even will share with a customer. AI and the future of where we're going with AI is about how you can be more efficient, right? When you have someone that is constantly tasked with doing, so many things, it's not a matter of we want to eliminate you. We want to make you more efficient. We want you to feel like you can spend more of your time on those more detailed, I'm going to say technical, but I don't mean like technical as in coding, but we want you to spend more time on the more technical, intricate tasks of your job rather than some of those, minute things that you could leverage AI for that could help you. If I could, cut my time in half and I don't have to spend my time here, I can really do much better work over here because AI has helped me be more efficient. So I think of it as efficiency rather than replacing someone or feeling like, we're in this age of, we're relying more on the technology than on the human side. We're always going to need the human hands. It's just using those human hands in a different way and hopefully creating a more positive experience for employees, staff. Me as a sales leader, I use AI every single day as a sales leader. I've infused it into everything that it is that I do. One thing that I tell my students, off the bat, if I ever see a paper with a grammatical error, spelling error, anything like that, I grade you 10 times harder. I should never get anything put in front of me with the tools and the technology that we have today with grammatical errors laced throughout. I'm going to say, could there be the one or the half of one? Sure. But if you send me a paper that's completely poorly written, that should be a thing of the past. Why? Because there's tools that will help you and that will give you that advice and that smoothing out. There's people that speak different languages that are able to leverage AI and better get their point across when English is a second language or they have a second language and they're trying to communicate with others. AI enables us to be able to communicate with different styles, different languages. There's just so much that we can do. And again, it's not about replacing, it's about creating a better experience and creating efficiencies for people.
Yeah. I use it so much for, just like researching. Like instead of Googling something, I'm typing it into Copilot or whatever. And I find I'm like annoyed when I just use the traditional Google something and I have to like scroll through 4 different links. I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like,
Right.
So
Right.
I'm right there with you. And I think about one final thought on this. Like I think about too, like that idea of being replaced. I did not coin this term or come up with it because it sounds really wise and smart. But it was this idea that like our jobs, like what makes me really good at my job is not my ability to write an email. What makes me good about my job is being able to do all the critical thinking and, the whatever. And so
Yes.
it's like they use the idea of like higher level thinking, like I don't need to use my energy or my brain capacity on writing an email. I can use it for higher level things. And I think that was
Yes.
good. And I think at the end of the day, if you're like, I remember I had, because I have YouTube videos, right? And no matter what, you're going to have people that like say things or disagree with it. I remember I had some comment where somebody was saying that AI was trash, and so you'd rather just use AI instead of pay another employee or whatever. And part of me is just like, okay, I see your point, sure. But also like, I think we could all say that like automobiles are value more like beneficial to society, at least more than like horse and buggies, like I bet the horse and buggy people were really upset when the automobile came out. You know what I mean? Like it was this idea
Right.
that like, shoot, like there's
Exactly.
been innovation and I'm doing something that's the old way of doing something. I now need
Right.
to figure something else out or find a way to bring value to society. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
Those
You
are
did
kind of
it.
just, I guess,
Yeah.
my final thoughts there. So
Yeah.
I'd love to, for the sake of time, to wrap up our conversation, kick it over to the after hours happy hour.
Okay.
I love it, Danielle, and getting to know you. You said that you were a bartender. So here we have another thing that Danielle does, that we are discovering 38 minutes into the conversation. Why do you love doing this? Love mixing drinks, and you said, and the reaction on flavor and power. Those are your words.
Oh, so yeah, so I got into bartending. I am a crazy cheerleading mom. My 16-year-old has been in competitive cheer since she was 5 years old, and a bunch of moms and I got together, and we used to do some fundraising at the baseball stadiums, and we would serve beer, and a lot of the money that we would make was via tips, and we would use that to help pay for sports and education expenses. And so we got to thinking, we were like, are we working efficiently here? And so a couple of us, crazy, decided to go to bartending school and get certified as bartenders. And so if you know me, anything that I do, I am all in. I go all in. And so I had the fun of, learning, the art of mixology and mixing a drink. And so I used to work these massive, massive events, concerts, weddings, things like that. And the best part of the day for me, or my night, was when I would shake a drink or I would mix a drink, and I was putting all this, like I was putting all the elbow into the shake on it, because you got to get the ice to mix in with the juices and the alcohol, right? You can feel me. And then I would pour that drink in to that martini glass, or pour it, and then I would serve it to that person, and to see them take that first sip. And when you see them take that sip and you see their reaction, and you're just like, oh, yes. Yes. When they're just like, and then you get that reaction where you made someone happy. And then they would keep coming back. They would keep coming back. And they were like, Danielle, can you make me that? Can you mix me that? And then somebody comes over and said, my friend said, I need to get that Danielle mix. Or my friend said, so that to me is just, and it just says a little bit more just about my passion for people, and, seeing the look on someone's face when I would just come up with the ultimate mix, especially when you are a female. And it can be intimidating going up to a bar and ordering a drink, I'm just going to say. And when you're like, oh my gosh, what do I order? How do I do this? And so when they come up to me and say, you know what, I don't know what to order. I want something sweet. I want something refreshing. And then I'm like, great, I got you. And so when I go off and I start doing my thing and putting my little combination together, and just seeing them go, oh my God, this is so good. And they have no clue what it is. And so then I'll educate them. And then that way, when they go, if I'm not there, if they're not getting a Danielle drink, then they can go to another bar and say, what it is that they want to order, and feel less intimidation and have just a great, great social experience. So,
Yeah. It's funny you say that. So I definitely have, me and my wife Alyssa are definitely foodies. Like we love to go
yeah.
to local food spots, and try new places and try new drinks. And I definitely know the spots. I was sharing before this that I'm definitely a spicy margarita person. Like that's like top tier drink for me. And
Yeah.
it's like I know the spots where there's good spicy margaritas and there's not so good spicy margaritas. And that definitely weighs into the consideration of it's like, hey, where do you want
Yeah.
to go? Where do you want to go eat?
You know where to go. That's right. That's right.
What's kind of
That's
like
right.
what's your specialty? Do you? I mean, you can't just say everything. That's not allowed. But like, what's
Yeah.
your specialty when it comes to things you like to mix?
Yeah, so first, I love a drink in a martini glass. And so I tend to, my favorite drink it's always a hit. I coined it myself, but it's called a pineapple Cosmo. And it was my take on a cosmopolitan classic ladies drink. And there's a lot that goes into it, but I'll say that there's a secret ingredient that I will share, which is peach schnapps. And so again, I've taken and deconstructed the classic ladies drink and made it the Danielle Pineapple Cosmo. And my husband is my taste tester, so he doesn't drink. He doesn't like to taste alcohol. So as I've gone through my bartending journey, whenever I was playing around with different mixes, he was always my taste tester. And it was, all right, this drink is a success depending on how many he can drink, between when he ends up on the couch knocked out and him almost drinking it too fast because he doesn't realize that it is an alcoholic beverage.
That's good. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
keeping you honest. That's awesome. No, the secret Danielle drink. If you
Yeah.
can remember, if you're comfortable sending me the recipe, I'll throw it in the description, I guess, in case
Okay.
anybody is still listening and they can make
Yeah.
the pineapple Cosmo Danielle special. So,
Yeah. I'll
thank
send
you.
it to you.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle. I mean, this is my favorite part of doing these and just talking to different people and making friends and building connections. And I if somebody was listening to this conversation and was positively impacted and wanted to get in contact with you or connect with you in some way, what would be the best way to reach you?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. If you look up my name, Danielle Estrada, you'll find my profile. It pops up almost immediately. Happy to connect with anyone, no matter where you're at in your journey. Again, it might take me a little bit of time. I do get quite a few DMs on a lot of platforms, and especially LinkedIn, but I do my best to try to respond to everyone. So please feel free to connect with me, help yourself build your network with me, network with Griffin, reach out to him too, and blow up his inbox.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
the best way to reach me.
Yeah, I'll have a link to that as well in the description down below. So thanks again for being here, and thank you to you for sticking to the end of the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.